So today, we're going to get into just the simplicity of understanding. I mean, Magda, Chad, Basha, and even Amber, actually, you all have done the program before. It evolves itself every time. This week, I want to get more into insights that I have seen in my own self, in my own life, using it as a laboratory, as an experiment. Seeing more and more clearly how we obstruct life, how we get in the way of ourselves. And I'm going to share that. So before I share that, I want to say two things, and I'll have an announcement at the end as well. So the first thing is, if I sound in any way condescending or patronizing, please forgive me in advance, because that is not my intention. You know, sometimes I start sharing and getting into this, and the passion comes out in its own way. And I have a little story around that, just to share quickly. So, you know, I was with a client, I think this was about 1.5 years ago or so. We were getting into a conversation, and I was speaking, and they said to me, you know, you could sound condescending, Shenan. And I went right in my head and got really insecure and self-conscious about it. I was like, oh, well, I don't want to sound condescending. What should I do about this? I'm going to have to watch how I say things and how I'm showing up, because I don't want to sound condescending, right? Nobody wants to sound condescending. That's not the intention. So I went in my head and thought about it and got really self-conscious and started, you know, going into circular thinking patterns of how can I show up in a different way, and I have to really watch how I speak. And how does Michael Neal do it? Oh, he's so good. You know, you got to look at that guy, and very trained. And I started going there. And I tired myself out, meaning I just pretty much went into the stale mode. And so I know a little bit enough to go, well, if you're feeling stale and disconnected, it's best to leave things alone. It doesn't make sense to figure it out. You got to leave things alone, right? Go take a walk, go do something else, because this is not working for you. And as I left it alone, excuse me, welcome, Anna. As I left it alone, I got a really nice insight, and it was really simple. And the insight was, instead of trying to change how you're speaking and watch what you're saying and put a little bit of attention on how you're coming off and a little bit of attention on your clients, because that's going to rob you, it's going to rob the space. Why don't you just in the beginning of the conversation say, I don't mean to sound condescending. That's it. Just say that, and it'll be very clear to them. And it just lifted me like, oh, that's it. That's where simplicity is. Speak it out into the world. So that's how I got to the space where I'm just like, you know what? The best way to share, especially in this conversation, is just to share. Share what you see, create the space, listen the way you listen as an empty space. And you might sound condescending or patronizing, depending on who you are and what you're. I mean, my background is coming from gang-related worlds. Forgive me if I'm sounding a little bit condescending, but I've improved quite a bit from those days. So I thought I would just throw that in, right? Anna, you're just joining us. You can see this in the recording, obviously, but we're going to talk about awareness. And I was just saying to the group, I'm going to share from some of the latest insight that I have seen about how we can get out of our own way. I see that as a subtle and a very powerful a piece that we should all look at, but not enough of us look at. No matter what kind of field you're in, or what kind of work you're in, or what kind of conversation you're in with family, friends, or clients, or at work, it's easy to really get in the way of ourselves and then try to figure it out. So if we look at how we're getting in the way of ourselves, we save ourselves so much grief of trying to figure out and get away from that. And so I was telling the group, if I do sound condescending or patronizing in any way, I don't mean to. Just try and overlook that. The second thing I want to say is that as I share whatever I'm seeing and however this session is going today, I would really encourage all of you to pay attention to the level of feeling that's within you more than what I'm saying. It's so easy for our mind to, okay, he's talking about this insight, and that's an insight. Thought creates feeling, yeah, not circumstance. It's thought that creates feeling, and so on, right? Our mind can capture that. It's going to be much more impactful, much more useful, and actually the correct way to really land this is to pay attention to how you're feeling. Now, when I say how, I don't mean what you're feeling, not the description of what you're feeling, but how you're feeling as I'm speaking. So more than my insight, it's really, really more helpful to just notice the feeling inside of you. I'm saying, for example, if I'm saying thought creates feeling and it's not circumstance, that creates feeling, and it's the principle of thought, and that creates perception and all of that. And you're listening to me, you're going to notice that there's a feeling of reflection or relaxation or maybe doubt, maybe contemplation, maybe confusion, whatever it is. And it's going to be more important for you to notice that, not do anything about it, but notice that more than the words that are coming out of my mouth. Does that make sense?